Start your day with clarity and calm using these 7 Stoic steps to calm anxiety. Listen every morning. Stoic Glint. This video guides you back to the present moment, helping you break anxious spirals, regain control of your mind, and build lasting inner peace through simple, practical Stoic practices. Learn how to redirect your thoughts, reconnect with your breath, and respond to anxiety with awareness instead of resistance, one step at a time. Subscribe now to Stoic Glint for more daily wisdom and powerful mental clarity tools. What if the thing you've been fighting is not your enemy at all? What if anxiety is not proof that you're broken, weak, unstable, or somehow less capable than everyone around you who seems calm on the surface? Hear this clearly. Anxiety is not your enemy. Say it again and let it land. Anxiety is not your enemy. It is not a flaw in your character wearing the mask of a feeling. It is not punishment for caring too much, thinking too deeply, or desperately wanting life to go well. It is your mind trying to protect you, doing the job it was designed to do, but doing it in the wrong direction, at the wrong time, for the wrong reason. That part of you that scans for danger, sounds the alarm, tightens the chest, speeds up the heart, and prepares the body for what might be coming. It is not malfunctioning. It is functioning exactly as it was built to function. The problem is not that it works. The problem is that it is working overtime on threats that do not exist yet, on futures that have not arrived, on imagined disasters that live only in the space between your thoughts and have never once stepped into the real, physical present moment your body is actually sitting in right now. And when that alarm goes off, the instinct is immediate and deeply human. You try to fight it. You push it down. You argue with it. You tell yourself to calm down. You shame yourself for being irrational. You compare your pain to people who seem to have it worse, and then feel guilty for struggling at all. You clench your jaw, tighten every muscle, and try to force your way through the moment before anyone notices. But none of that works. And the Stoics understood why long before modern psychology gave it a name. You cannot fight the mind with more mental violence. You cannot argue an anxious thought into silence. You cannot bully yourself into peace. Resistance does not dissolve anxiety. It feeds it. Whatever you resist with force tends to push back with equal force. Anxiety that is fought becomes anxiety that settles in. It grows roots in the struggle. It starts to feel justified by your resistance, as if the very fact that you are battling it proves that it must be dangerous. So what do you do instead? You redirect. Gently, deliberately, without drama, without trying to win some brutal war inside your own head. You move, step by step, from the imagined future back to the real present, from the storm back to stillness, from the alarm back to the breath. That is the practice, not a one-time fix. Not a magical solution that removes anxiety forever. A practice. A path you choose again and again every time the storm returns. Not because you failed. Not because the method stopped working. But because this is what practice actually means. It means returning, repeatedly, until the distance between panic and peace gets shorter, and coming back to yourself becomes faster, steadier, and more reliable each time. Before we go further, hold on to this like it matters, because it does. I return to now. Step 1 is simple, but powerful. The moment you name what is happening, you are already stronger than it. Something real changes the instant you put words to what you're feeling. Not in a dramatic, cinematic way. Not in a way that makes the anxiety vanish on the spot, but in a way that completely changes your relationship to it. Before you name it, Anxiety feels like everything. It feels like the whole room. Like the walls are closing in. Like being pulled under a wave with no clear surface in sight. Like there is no corner of your experience that it has not already reached, occupied, and claimed as its own. But the moment you name it, a line appears. Now there is you, and there is the anxiety. You are no longer the storm. You are the one witnessing it. You are no longer fully trapped inside the wave. You are the one recognizing. This is anxiety. This is what is happening right now. That small space, that thin but crucial distance, is where your power begins. Because once you can see it, you can work with it. Once you can name it, you are no longer completely swallowed by it. And that is the beginning of coming back. And once you begin to see it, everything starts to shift in a quiet but powerful way. That overwhelming feeling, that sense that anxiety has completely taken over, that there is no space left between you and what you're feeling, that is where most of the real suffering lies. Not in the anxiety itself, but in the belief that it is everything, that it has filled the entire room, that it has become you. You're no longer someone experiencing anxiety. You are the anxiety. But the moment you name it, something subtle yet profound happens. A boundary appears, almost like a thin line drawn in the middle of the chaos. Suddenly, there is you, and there is the anxiety. Two separate things. You are the one experiencing. Anxiety is simply the experience itself. And that small gap, however fragile it feels at first, however uncertain or barely noticeable in the middle of everything that's happening, that gap is everything. It is the most important shift you can make. Because you cannot change what you cannot see. You cannot interrupt a spiral you haven't recognized. And you cannot work with something you are completely lost inside of. Naming it creates distance. And that distance is the first step toward control. It doesn't require perfect language. You don't need psychological terms or clinical precision. You don't need to explain it beautifully. You only need honesty. This is anxiety. My mind has left the present moment. That's it. That's the entire diagnosis. Not a catastrophe. Not proof that something is permanently wrong with you. Not a sign that the worst-case scenario your mind is showing you is about to happen. Just your mind doing what minds do when they are left without direction, when they lose their anchor to the present. They wander. They move forward into uncertainty. They begin to create stories. They build scenarios, layer by layer, until those imagined possibilities start to feel real. And then the body responds. The heart races. The chest tightens. The alarm sounds, not because something is happening, but because something is being imagined. That's all it is. Nothing more. Nothing less. And this is exactly what the Stoics understood with incredible clarity. Marcus Aurelius returned to this idea again and again throughout his life. Not as theory, but as a daily practice. He wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment." Think about that for a second. The anxiety you feel is not coming directly from the future event you're afraid of. It's coming from the story your mind is telling about that event, the meaning it has assigned, the conclusion it has already reached about how bad it will be, and whether you will be able to handle it. And that story? It's happening inside your mind. Which means it is not fixed. It is not final. And most importantly, it is not beyond your reach. Because inside that same mind exists something else: your awareness, your attention, your ability to observe instead of being carried away. But that awareness only becomes available when you stop long enough to see clearly what is happening and to name it. Your mind left the present. It moved into the future. It began constructing disaster. Your body is reacting to what your mind is imagining. Nothing about this is happening outside of you. Every part of it is happening within you. And if that's true, then the power to interrupt it is also within you. So name it. Say it clearly. This is anxiety. My mind left the present moment. And then notice what happens. Not a dramatic disappearance, not instant relief, but a shift, a real one. The feeling is still there, but now you are no longer fully inside it. You are slightly outside it, observing it. You are no longer just the experience. You are the one witnessing the experience. And from that place, even if it feels new, even if it feels unstable at first, everything changes. Because now, you're not trapped in the storm trying to escape blindly. You're standing at the edge of it, with just enough clarity to take the next step. And that is where it all begins. That is not a small victory. That is the beginning of everything. That is you becoming stronger than what you just named. If you're ready to take that first real step, say it clearly. I see what is happening. Now that you can see it clearly and name it, the next step becomes possible. You stop it before it grows. A spiral cannot survive a true pause. It needs momentum. It needs continuity. And most importantly, it needs your attention to keep feeding it. So the real skill here is not fighting the spiral at full force. It's stopping it before it ever finds its legs. Because here's the truth: a spiral never begins loudly. It doesn't arrive as chaos. It doesn't announce itself with intensity. It starts quietly, almost invisibly. So quietly that the first thought feels harmless. A single "what if" slips in unnoticed. No warning. No urgency. Just a small, passing thought that doesn't seem important enough to challenge. What if this goes wrong? What if I can't handle it? What if the thing I'm afraid of is exactly what's waiting for me? And on its own, that thought feels manageable, almost insignificant. But if nothing interrupts it, it doesn't stay alone. It reaches for another thought. And then another. And then another. Each one slightly darker than the last. Each one pulling emotional weight from the ones before it. Each one stacking on top of the previous until something subtle becomes something heavy. And then something heavy becomes something overwhelming. The thoughts begin to speed up. They feel more urgent, more convincing, more certain. What started as imagination begins to feel like prediction, like insight, like you're not making things up, but actually seeing something real, something you need to prepare for immediately. That's when the spiral is fully formed. And here's the most important thing to understand about it: stopping it early is not just easier, it's dramatically easier. There's a massive difference between interrupting a spiral after 30 seconds and trying to escape one that has been running for 30 minutes. The longer it runs, the stronger it feels. The stronger it feels, the more real it becomes. And the more real it becomes, the harder it is to step back and recognize it for what it is. You don't feel like you're imagining anymore. You feel like you're reacting to reality. And that's the trap. So the moment to act is not later. It's not when it's overwhelming. It's right at the beginning. The instant you feel that change starting to form. That's your window. Epictetus said it simply, but with deep truth behind it. Man is not worried by real problems so much as by his imagined anxieties about real problems. Not the problem itself, but the story built around it, the layers added to it, the expansion of something real into something far bigger, far darker, far more threatening than it ever needed to be. So break the chain. The moment your mind starts racing, stop. Not in a minute. Not when it gets worse. Right now. Before the second thought connects to the third. And here's how. Count backwards slowly. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Not quickly. Not mechanically. Slowly enough that each number holds your full attention. Slowly enough that your mind has something else to focus on besides building the next thought. Let the counting become the only thing happening. And as you do, something else begins to shift. Your breath, which was shallow and fast, starts to slow down naturally. It begins to follow the rhythm of the count. Your body starts to regulate without you forcing it. Because breath and thought are deeply connected. Slow the breath, and the thoughts begin to slow. Slow the thoughts, and the breath deepens. They move together. They influence each other constantly. And this simple act, counting backward, gives you access to that connection without needing to understand the science behind it. You don't need to analyze it. You don't need to master it. You just need to do it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This isn't a magic trick. It's not a permanent solution. It's something far more practical. It's a pattern interrupt. A clean, deliberate break in the chain that the spiral depends on to survive. Because a spiral without continuity cannot grow. And a spiral that never grows never becomes the storm. And once you've interrupted the spiral, even for a moment, something important becomes available again. Because a spiral cannot survive a real pause. It depends on movement, on continuity, on one thought flowing seamlessly into the next without interruption. The moment you break that flow, even briefly, even imperfectly, you take away exactly what the spiral needs to grow into something overwhelming. Even something as simple as counting backward from 5 can be enough. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That small interruption, that single break in the chain, is often all it takes to stop the spiral before it finds its footing. And a spiral that never finds its footing never becomes the storm. So stop it early. Stop it gently, but decisively. And if you're ready to do that, to interrupt it before it takes over, make that choice clear, even if only to yourself. I choose to pause. Now, from that pause, we move into something even more grounding, something that has been there the entire time. Your body. Because while your mind was racing into the future, your body never went with it. It stayed exactly where it always stays. Here. Right here, in this moment. In this breath. In this heartbeat. In the quiet, constant contact between your body and the world around you. Your body does not know how to travel into the future. It has never been there. It cannot attend the meeting you're worried about. It cannot sit inside the conversation you've been replaying in your head. It cannot feel the outcome of something that hasn't happened yet. It only knows how to experience what is happening now. This breath entering your lungs. This heartbeat steady inside your chest. The weight of your body resting against a chair or the ground beneath your feet. The temperature of the air touching your skin. All of it is happening right now. All of it is real. And all of it is grounded in the present in a way that nothing your mind imagines can ever truly replicate. And that's why your body is one of the most powerful anchors you have. Because when your mind drifts into anxiety, returning to your body is the fastest way to return to the present moment. And the present moment is the only place where anxiety cannot fully survive. Seneca understood this deeply. He said, "Everything else belongs to others. Time alone is ours. And the only time that truly belongs to you is this moment right here. Not yesterday. Not tomorrow. Not the imagined version of next week your mind has been constructing in such vivid detail. Just this moment. And your body has never left it. The anxious mind wants to make this complicated. It wants techniques, systems, steps, something to figure out. Because complexity keeps the thinking going, and more thinking feeds the spiral. But coming back to your body is not complicated. It is immediate. It is simple. And it is always available. You don't need to perform anything. You don't need to breathe in a specific way or follow a perfect rhythm. Just notice the breath that is already happening. Feel the air moving in through your nose. Feel your chest or your belly rising and falling naturally. Notice the small pause between one breath and the next. This is already happening. Your body has been doing this the entire time, even while your mind was somewhere else. It didn't stop. It didn't wait for you. It just kept going. Feel that. Feel the breath that continued without your attention. Feel the heartbeat that stayed steady while your mind imagined disaster. Feel your feet pressing into the ground, solid and real. Feel the weight of your body supported by something beneath you. That contact is happening now. Your body never left. Notice the temperature around you, the air on your skin, the subtle sounds that actually exist in your environment, not the ones your imagination created, but the real ones, here, in this moment. All of this is real. All of this is present. And all of this has been waiting, patiently, for you to come back. And as you settle back into your body, something becomes unmistakably clear. This moment is real, and this moment is safe. Every sensation you feel right now, the breath, the heartbeat, the weight of your body, the air on your skin, none of it is imagined. None of it belongs to the future your mind was creating. All of it belongs to right now. And right now, you are safe. The danger your mind was constructing, the scenarios it was building, the outcomes it was rehearsing, they are not here. They exist only in a future your body has never visited, because your body does not work that way. Your body only knows how to be here. Here in this breath. Here in this heartbeat. Here in this moment that is fully real, fully present, and fully safe. And it has been here the entire time, waiting for you. So come back to it. Every time your mind begins to drift forward again, and it will gently bring it back using something real, something immediate. Your breath. The feeling of your feet on the ground. The temperature of the room. The weight of your body supported by something solid. Any one of these can be your doorway back. Because they all lead to the same place, the present moment. The only place that has never moved. The only place that has always been here, quietly waiting, without pressure, without judgment, for you to return. And if you are ready to come back, fully, intentionally, say it clearly. I am here right now. Now, from this place of presence, we move into something deeper, understanding the mind itself. Because the mind is not your enemy. It never was. In fact, it is incredibly powerful. It is not broken. It is not damaged. It is not weak. And it is not evidence that something is wrong with you. The real issue has never been the power of your mind. It has always been its direction. Because your mind is, at its core, a finding machine. Give it a question, and it will search relentlessly for answers. Point it in a direction, and it will follow that direction completely, without hesitation, without asking whether that direction actually serves you. It simply goes where it is pointed. And anxiety points it in one direction only, toward the worst possible outcome. What if I fail? Immediately, your mind begins scanning its entire history, pulling up every moment of failure it can find. It lines them up, one by one, and presents them as evidence. It builds a pattern, a story. This is who you are. This is what you do. This is what will happen again. What if everything goes wrong? Your mind searches through every past experience where things didn't go as planned. It brings those moments forward and presents them as previews of the future. What if I can't handle this? It finds every memory where you felt overwhelmed, unprepared, or not enough, and uses them as proof that you are incapable. And here's the important part. Your mind is not lying to you. It is simply answering the questions it has been given, with precision, with efficiency, with total commitment. The problem is not the answers. The problem is the question. Anxiety has been feeding your mind questions that only point in one direction. And your mind, doing exactly what it was designed to do, has been following that direction perfectly. Epictetus understood this deeply. He said, "Seek not that the things which happen should happen as you wish, but wish the things which happen to be as they are, and you will have a tranquil flow of life." In other words, see things as they actually are, not as the catastrophic version your anxiety is constructing, not as the worst-case scenario your mind is rehearsing, but as they exist right now, in this moment, which is manageable, real, and far less threatening than the story being told. So the practice here is not to fight your thoughts. You cannot force them to disappear. You cannot command your mind into silence. And the more you try to suppress a thought, the stronger it tends to return. Instead, you replace the question, not with blind optimism, not with forced positivity, not by pretending everything will be perfect, but with honest, grounded questions that open a different direction. And now that you've begun to redirect your mind, the next step is not to force positivity, but to ask better questions. Not the kind of forced optimism that pretends problems don't exist. Not the kind that says everything will be fine when you don't actually believe it. That kind of thinking doesn't hold. It collapses under pressure. Instead, you shift the direction of your thinking with something more honest, more grounded, more real. You ask questions that anxiety never asks on its own. What if it all works out? What if I am more capable than I've been giving myself credit for? What if the outcome I've been fearing doesn't happen the way I imagine it will? What if the thing I'm most afraid of turns out to be something I can actually move through, instead of something that stops me? And what if this moment, uncomfortable as it feels right now, is not permanent? What if it's manageable? What if it's something that passes, something that ends? These are not naive thoughts. They are not illusions. They are not wishful thinking dressed up as comfort. They are real possibilities. Just as real as the worst-case scenarios your anxiety has been showing you. Because the truth is, the future is uncertain, and that uncertainty is not one-sided. Yes, things can go wrong, but things can also go right. Anxiety only shows you one side of that equation. It focuses entirely on what could go wrong and ignores everything else. So your role is simple. You give your mind both sides. You give it a better question. Because your mind will always search for answers. That's what it does. It always has. The only thing that changes is who decides what it looks for. So make sure that decision is yours. Point your mind towards something worth exploring, something worth finding, and watch how it begins to respond differently. And if you're ready to take that control back, say it clearly. I choose a better question. Now, as you begin to do this, something else starts to happen, quietly, almost subtly. Your thoughts begin to slow. And this is important, because when that slowing begins, many people misunderstand it. They think it means something is wrong, that they're losing control, that the calm isn't real. But the truth is, that slowing is not weakness. That is you winning. Something is shifting inside you. Not in a dramatic, sudden way. Not in the way the anxious mind expects. But in a way that is quiet, steady, and unmistakably real. The thoughts that were racing just moments ago begin to lose their speed. The chain of what ifs that felt unstoppable starts to loosen. The space between each thought begins to widen. And the emotional intensity, the tight grip it had on you, starts to soften, just slightly, around the edges. The storm is still there, but it's no longer building. It's beginning to settle. And this moment, this quiet turning point, is often misread. Because it doesn't feel like victory. It feels too calm, too subtle, too fragile. Almost like something you shouldn't trust. The anxious mind, which has been operating at full intensity, sometimes interprets this softening as danger, as if it's just the calm before something worse, as if letting your guard down will make things collapse again. But that interpretation is the anxiety speaking. It's the spiral's final attempt to hold on, to keep you inside it by making you doubt the very signs that it's losing its grip. Don't follow that voice. Because what's happening right now is not a trick. It's not false calm. It's not temporary illusion. It is the direct, natural result of everything you've already done. You named the anxiety. You interrupted the spiral before it grew. You returned to your body. You reminded your nervous system that, in this moment, you are safe. And now, your system is responding exactly the way it's designed to. It's beginning to settle. And now, as everything begins to settle, you can start to feel something real returning. You shifted your attention. You gave your mind a different question, one that points toward possibility instead of disaster. And just like that, your system begins to respond the way it was always designed to respond when given the right input. Not dramatically, not loudly, but quietly, steadily, truthfully. Marcus Aurelius wrote something for moments exactly like this, not moments of victory or celebration, but moments like this one, where things are just beginning to turn. He said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Read that again, slowly. You have power over your mind. And what you're feeling right now, the slowing of your thoughts, the softening of that intensity, the quiet return of control, that is not imaginary. That is not something you're pretending. That is your power in action. Not claimed, not announced, not forced. Real. It is the power of a mind that was caught in a spiral and chose, step by step, moment by moment, to come back. And now, let your breath follow that return. Don't force it. Don't control it. Just allow it. Let the exhale become slightly longer than the inhale. Let the rhythm slow naturally as your thoughts slow. Because your breath and your nervous system are always communicating. Every slower, deeper exhale sends a signal through your entire body. The danger has passed. The alarm can quiet. The system can stand down. Even if nothing external has changed, internally, everything is shifting. And as your breath deepens, as your thoughts continue to slow, something else begins to return. Something anxiety always takes away. Clarity. The ability to see things as they are, not as the worst version of what they could become. The ability to think clearly, without every thought being filtered through fear or catastrophe. The ability to be here, in your actual life, instead of trapped in a future that hasn't happened and may never happen the way your mind imagined. That clarity is here right now. It didn't disappear. It was always there, beneath the noise, beneath the storm, waiting for the intensity to pass so it could become visible again. And you found your way back to it. Not all at once, but one step at a time. One choice at a time. One breath at a time. So when your thoughts begin to slow, don't misread that moment. It is not weakness. It is not surrender. It is not you giving up. It is you winning. Not loudly, not dramatically, but in the only way that truly matters, quietly, genuinely, completely. And if you can feel that shift, even slightly, even for a moment, recognize it for what it is. Say it clearly. My mind is returning to me. Now, from here, we arrive at something even more fundamental, the truth everything has been pointing toward. This breath is real. This moment is real. Come back to what is actually true. Because every step you've taken so far, every pause, every interruption, every return to your body, has been leading you here. Not because this is the most complicated step, but because it is the most real. This moment, right now. You are breathing. You are here. You are safe. And the disaster your mind was building just moments ago, it has no place here. It has no presence. It has no real power over what is actually happening in your life right now. Marcus Aurelius returned to this idea again and again throughout his life, not as a theory, but as a daily discipline. He wrote, "Confine yourself to the present," not as a comforting idea, but as a practice. A repeated, intentional act of bringing your mind back to the only place where peace actually exists. Because at its core, anxiety is a problem of location. Your mind moves into the future. Your body stays in the present. And the suffering comes from the distance between the two. Close that distance, and something changes. Bring your awareness back to where your body already is, and the gap begins to disappear. And in that return, you begin to find peace again. And as that distance begins to close, something essential comes back into place. You return to where you actually are. Because the suffering was never just the anxiety itself. It was the gap, the distance between where your awareness had gone and where your body has always been. And the moment you return to the present, that gap begins to close. It's a quiet healing, a reconnection, a bringing together of mind and body in the only moment that is real, the only moment that is safe, the only moment that has ever truly belonged to you. So feel your breath right now. Not as something you need to control, not as something you're doing right or wrong, just as something that is happening. This breath is real. It's happening without effort, without instruction, without your direction. Your body has been breathing through everything, through the spiral, through the tension, through every step of this process. It never stopped. And now, your attention is finally catching up to it. And that breath, it is more real than anything your anxious mind was projecting into the future. It doesn't require interpretation. It doesn't need explanation. It is evidence. Evidence that you are here. Evidence that you are present. Evidence that you are alive in this exact moment, and that this moment is safe. And whatever the future holds, whatever challenges may come later, they are not here yet. They are not yours to carry right now. Right now, you only have to be here. In this breath. In this moment. In this reality that is unfolding right in front of you. Because the future, when it arrives, will not come all at once. It will come as a series of present moments, just like this one. Each one manageable. Each one carrying only what is needed for that moment. Each one asking for your attention, not your anticipation. None of them require you to suffer through them before they happen. None of them become easier because you live them in advance inside your mind. You don't have to live next week today. You don't have to solve tomorrow's problems with today's presence. You don't have to prepare for a disaster that hasn't arrived, and may never arrive in the form your anxiety has been showing you. You only have to be here. Here in this breath. Here in this body. Here in this moment that is complete, that is real, that is enough. Because this moment has always been enough. It is the only place where anything real has ever happened. And it is the only place where anything ever will. The past is memory. The future is imagination. This moment is life. And you are in it. Fully. Completely. Right here. So come back to what is true. This breath is real. This moment is real. You are real, and you are here. And if you can feel that, even for a second, say it clearly. I am present. I am here. Now, there is one final truth to understand, something honest, something most people don't want to hear, but something that matters deeply. The storm will return. And so will you. Because that is what practice really means. This is not a one-time fix. This is not a permanent state you reach and never leave. And it's important to say that clearly. The storm will come back. Not because you failed. Not because the steps didn't work. Not because you missed something or didn't try hard enough. And not because there is anything broken inside you. The storm will return because your mind is not a machine that gets fixed once and stays fixed forever. Your mind is alive. It is constantly moving, constantly adapting, constantly responding to a world that is uncertain, complex, and often unpredictable. And a mind that is fully engaged with life will experience anxiety again. That is not failure. That is being human. And that's where everything begins to shift, not in avoiding the storm, but in how you meet it when it returns. Because a mind that is truly alive, engaged, aware, and present in the real challenges of a real life will encounter anxiety again. That's not failure. It's not a relapse. It's not a step backward. It is the nature of being human, awake in a world that does not promise certainty. So the question was never, will the storm come back? The real question, the only question that matters, is, what will you do when it does? The Stoic philosopher Seneca offered something deeply honest when he said, "Begin at once to live, and count each separate day as a separate life." Think about that for a moment. Each day, a separate life. Not a running total of how many times anxiety returned. Not a scoreboard tracking your progress or your setbacks. Not a ledger where every difficult moment becomes evidence against you. But each day, each moment, even each return of the storm, as something entirely new. A fresh opportunity. An opportunity to practice returning. To choose the present moment again. To name what is happening again. To interrupt the spiral again. To come back to your body again. To ask a better question again. To breathe again and come back again, without carrying the weight of every previous time into this one. Because that is what practice actually means. Not doing something once and being done forever. Not reaching a perfect state and holding it without effort. But returning again and again with patience, with consistency, with a quiet commitment to yourself. Until something begins to change. Until the response becomes more natural. Until it requires less effort. Until, the moment anxiety appears, part of you already knows what to do without needing to think so hard about it. Until the distance between the storm and the stillness becomes shorter than it used to be. Until what once lasted an hour lasts 10 minutes. Until what once consumed days fades within an afternoon. Until returning to the present is no longer something you have to remember, but something you simply do. Because you've done it enough times that it has become part of who you are. This is what the Stoics were building. Not a life without difficulty. Not a mind that never wanders. Not a future without uncertainty. But a capacity, a practiced, reliable, deeply rooted ability to return. Every time. Without shame. Without frustration that it was necessary again. Without expecting perfection. And that capacity, it strengthens every time you use it. The path becomes more familiar. The process becomes more natural. The skill compounds quietly, in ways you may not even notice at first. Until one day, you look back and realize, what used to take hours now takes minutes. What used to overwhelm you for days now passes in an afternoon. And something else changes too. The storm becomes less frightening because you've seen it before. You recognize its shape. You know what it is and what it is not. The spiral becomes less convincing because you've interrupted it before. You know with certainty that it can be interrupted again. The future becomes less threatening because you've returned from it before. You know that the present is always here waiting. And anxiety itself, while it may never disappear completely from a life that truly matters, it loses its power. It becomes something you move through, not something that controls you. Something you notice and respond to. Not something that takes over without warning. Something that lasts minutes, not days. And that right there, that is not the absence of anxiety. That is mastery. Not mastery as in never feeling it again, but mastery as in no longer being ruled by it. And this is where it all comes together, not in eliminating anxiety, but in no longer being controlled by it. Mastery does not mean the storm never comes back. It means something far more powerful than that. It means knowing, deeply, quietly, and with a confidence that only real, repeated practice can build, that when the storm comes, you know how to return. every single time. Without exception, the storm will return, and so will you. That is practice. That is the whole truth of it. So if you are ready to live this, not just understand it, say it, and mean it, I begin again every time. Because here is something simple, and yet profound enough to spend a lifetime practicing. Anxiety lives in the future. Peace lives in the present. 7 words. Easy to say, much harder to live, and yet entirely possible. The Stoics understood this with a clarity that has not faded in over 2,000 years. They saw that the suffering of anxiety is not the suffering of what is actually happening. It is the suffering of what the mind imagines might happen. It is the body, safe in the present moment, reacting to a future that has not arrived. A future that may never arrive. A future that exists only inside thought. And so the way out is not to control the future. Not to eliminate uncertainty. Not to guarantee that nothing difficult will ever happen. That path does not exist. The real path is simpler and more demanding. Return. Return to the breath. Return to the body. Return to this moment. Again and again, without exception, and without shame that the return is needed once more. Because these 7 steps were never meant to be a cure. They are a compass. A compass that always points you back to the present moment, the only place where peace is real, where it is available, where it has always been waiting. Remember this. The moment you name what you are feeling, you are already stronger than it, because you have created space between you and the experience. A spiral cannot survive a pause. Just 5 slow seconds can interrupt what felt unstoppable. Your body never left this moment. It has been here the entire time, steady, patient, waiting for you to come back. Your mind will always search for answers, so give it better questions. Let it look for possibility, not just disaster. And when your thoughts begin to slow, do not mistake that for weakness. That is the nervous system receiving a signal. The emergency is over. This breath is real. This moment is real. Come back to what is true, not what fear was projecting onto the screen of an imagined future. And when the storm returns, and it will, begin again. Not as a failure. Not as starting over from zero. But as the next step in practice. Each time fresh. Each time without the weight of the last. Marcus Aurelius never wrote as someone who had conquered his mind once and for all. He wrote as someone practicing, returning, reminding himself again and again. Because that is what it takes. He said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." Not realize it once. Realize it every time the storm appears. Realize it when you name what is happening. Realize it when you pause. Realize it when you return to your body. Realize it when you ask a better question. Realize it as the thoughts begin to slow. And in that moment, you will remember something that anxiety tries to make you forget. The power was never gone. It was always yours. And this is the final piece, the quiet realization that ties everything you've just experienced together. You begin to see it not just in theory, but in something much more real, in the breath itself. You feel it in the moment you choose to begin again. Not perfectly, not dramatically, just honestly. Because that power, it has always been yours. It was never taken from you. It was never lost. Anxiety only makes it feel that way, just for a moment, just long enough to make you forget. And what these 7 steps truly are, is not a cure, not a quick fix, not a one-time solution. They are a practice of remembering. Not once, but every single time. Every time the noise rises. Every time the thoughts begin to spiral. Every time the mind drifts too far into a future that does not yet exist. You interrupt it. You pause. You breathe. You return. Again and again and again. Not with force. Not with frustration. But with a quiet decision to come back to what is real. Interrupt the chaos. Find your breath. Return to now. Because in that exact moment, the moment your awareness comes back to the present, you are not just calming down. You are reclaiming something. You are taking your power back. And maybe this found you at exactly the right time. Maybe you needed to hear this today, not tomorrow, not someday, right now. So leave yourself a reminder. A simple one, but one that matters. Say it, write it, mean it. I return to now every single time.